Let's walk through one of my favorite art journals. It is a pretty great little tiny sketchbook, very small and portable, maybe 5 by 5, I'm not exactly sure. But the reason I'm showing it to you all is because for my series on starting an art journal, this uses all the basic materials. So obviously I'm using watercolor, I'm using pen, I'm using pencil, I'm doing some writing. And so the kit that we talked about in the very first video, which I'll link to in that little spot up above, this is basically using those materials. During COVID, when we were all stuck at home, I really enjoyed looking through my old photographs. So, for example, this spread on the left is from Alaska, a trip that I took back in 2005. This is from the Grand Tetons. And yeah, this was Cascade Canyon. I had been there in the summer of 2019. And so went back to some photographs and did the continuous line drawing. These are just some trees. This was from Mackenzie Bridge, Oregon, where I had been the summer before, as well as this is actually from my home in Brooklyn, the park really close to my apartment. There's one tree there that I really love, and it's got you might not be able to tell exactly, but that is at the World Trade Center. And so I like that combination of kind of the urban environment with some natural beauty. So yeah, you'll see some birds in this one, a lot of landscapes because that's where my sort of freedom and solace come from. This was probably from Birds in December, which is a program that I can link to that a friend on Instagram runs every year, and I really enjoy doing it. And you can see I've done different ways of doing it. This is like a layered effect. This is a continuous line drawing. Here I've done a lot with the color that I chose to include, some owls. I actually still love this great blue heron. I think it's really neat. I also love to play with the lettering, so you'll see that in some places. This was a friend who was traveling through Big Bend National Park. I'm actually trying to get her to come on to Artists Creating Artists. Hopefully she'll do that with me. I just love everywhere she travels. And so I reached out and asked if I could paint this. And she said, yeah. As simple as like the window pane in our building, some really simple trees. This is Silver Lake, and this is Mount Monadnock, which is the big mountain in our area of southern New Hampshire. And so this is just like a fun study of that little corner. There's a nice hike at the end of the lake. So this one is much more free flowing. I love these meditative landscapes, which aren't necessarily tied to a specific place, but it has a kind of a beach vibe. It looks like the ocean. Very soothing to do these. And this is done just with watercolor, taping off the sides and creating layers of both gradient and then some layers overlapping so you get that sense of distance. And it's either sunrise or sunset with the sort of peachy color at the horizon. I went through a phase of doing a bunch of these, and actually I'd love to go back and do them some more. They're really fun. It's tricky to get it completely even, and even this one needs a little help, but I like those blooms that aren't quite right. And when the color matches and overlaps with something else, I think it adds a lot of unique beauty. This is a bridge study from my neighborhood. This is the Manhattan Bridge. There's a large skyscraper on the other side of the river from the Manhattan Bridge, and this is from a park where we are. Clearly, I was thinking about doing some kind of 4-part larger canvas. I never did it, but actually I might still do it. And this was really an architectural study, still working on my abilities with proportion and scale. But I really like the way this page turned out. I think it's a really interesting study. And it was apparently on Christmas Day in 2020. That's fun. This was just playing around with some new colors and some other things. This is a turkey with some writing around it. Again, playing with some landscapes. I believe this is the Three Sisters Wilderness area, which is one of my favorite topics, and playing with the proportion of sky to landscape. And this one I decided to do a lot of sky. Another terrible person. I'm not so great at people, but I'm working on it. This is a master study of Tom Thompson, who is one of the Canadian landscape artists that I really love. And I have a great time whenever I study his work. I find it so interesting and visually stimulating. I've done this particular painting a couple of times in a variety of different ways. He was likely working in oils. And so this is a watercolor take on that. You can see I've thrown in a little bit of gouache, some of that opaque white over top, and some pen. I also had put down the members of the group of 7, which was his cohort of landscape artists that set out to define Canadian landscape. And there were some associated artists, unfortunately only one woman, Emily Carr, but she is phenomenal as well. And I'll probably do a full episode at some point dedicated to this group and specifically to her. So look for that. This is a sketch of the Wind River Range, which has a special place in my heart. I did a backpacking trip here in the summer of my junior year in high school, and it honestly changed my life. It was a really incredible trip, and I did not take very many photographs. I did not have an art practice at that time, and so going back and looking at some of my pictures from that time and drawing them have been really fun. Again, this is our neighborhood. This is a study of a really great part of the world, not spectacular peaks like out west, but lovely hills. This is from Pitcher Mountain in New Hampshire, which is a really neat little spot that we all go to for blueberry picking. And I thought it would be fun to do a triptych of this one. I never did that, but I still could. I like that page a lot. This page is just playing with some clouds. More scenes of New York. This is the Wonder Wheel in Coney Island. This is one of the gardens in Central Park. This is just a beautiful piece of, what do we call that? Origami paper. So this is just great paper, and I had fun actually trying to figure out what the palette was and pulling it together. And then I've been working on some deconstructed books, and so I just put that in. That we do our best. We plant an apple tree today, even if we know that the world is going to be destroyed tomorrow. We save those that we can. I was clearly in a dark mood, but I still am. Some color studies, more views from our park. I've done this view so many times, and each time it's a little different. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I don't. This was from a magazine that I get, or my husband gets it. I don't know. Departures magazine. I think it may have come with some sort of American Express credit card. But I love skiing, and I loved the picture, so I drew it a few different ways. I think I would probably make these a little less bright to have some atmospheric perspective there. But anyway, that's for next time. Again, the park and some swatching. Look at how gorgeous these colors are. Oh my God. This is a picture from the Blue Mosque. I had been to the Blue Mosque, I guess that was 2011, because this is 2020. So this is just a really quick, I had been playing with colors, and then I did a brush pen line drawing over top. And then I had done some exercises. I think this was from a Liz Steele class in terms of defining why do you keep a sketchbook. So I had written to document my life, practice for travel journaling. I find it relaxing. It's a break, helps me focus on the present, gives me a sense of accomplishment. It brought me closer to my sister, helps me relive happy times, gives me a place to process ideas, what I'm reading, challenges, politics, goals, opens up a new community through challenges on Instagram, classes, books, and it's a creative outlet. And then I think I have another one. Yeah, it was definitely a Liz Steele workshop, so I recommend you check her out. She's great. She's incredible technically, and I think she was an architect, so she really has a sense of urban sketching and proportion, and she's so generous with her classes, so I really do highly recommend that. And then things I like to sketch and write about in my journals. So I like to do landscapes and memories of beautiful places, travel sketches, impressionistic, abstract landscapes, color meditations, birds, animals, especially dogs, still to this day, urban sketching, trees and wilderness, trip planning, research pages and thumbnails, abstract play, old book revival concepts and experimentation, my intentions, books, poetry, quotes, memories, patterns. Patterns is a star. I want to do even more of that. And then florals. And then my final, I think, is this my final page? Yeah. Basically, I end with dogs, which is my happy place. So that is just something to think about. If you are interested in doing some work like this, I encourage you to check out my series of 30 days of art journaling. I believe I'm on day 5 now, and you can get lots of inspiration and some ideas for filling your own sketchbook a lot like this one. Thanks for watching. See you soon.